Hello friends, I'm Christopher. Good morning. It's the 17th of June, 2022. Welcome back to the garden. It's going to be a grossly humid week. Mid and upper 80s, super high humidity. The only time I can do anything outside is right now when it's 5:30 in the morning. And all this week I'm going to start harvesting the gooseberries and the currants and doing my final harvest of rhubarb for the spring. And I wanted to show you what they look like right away before I got going. It's a little different start than we usually do, but I would say they're quite spectacular. And you can tell that it's so humid because everything is bogged down. But just look at those beautiful canes. I love these massive, massive leaves. I mean, the perspective is hard here, but this is a species of rhubarb that is just so huge. Like, look at the thickness of this stalk compared to my thumb. I call it dinosaur rhubarb. I have no idea what it's actually called. I stand way back for this. So the gooseberry, when it is heavily laden and ready to pick, will fall over. This used to be about as tall as the fence line, right? And then it just fell over real wide. This is 6.5 feet at its widest, and now it's only maybe 3.5 feet tall, on average 3 feet tall. That's because it's got all the berries on it. So once we get picking, this will spring back up. Wing. It's pretty fun. You can see that the black currants are starting to do the same because they're ripening. And oh, gotta be careful of the thorns. But the currants are all ready to go everywhere. You can see the black ones, for the most part, are still ripening. But the red ones are ready to go. You can tell they're ready too because they're falling over. That's beautiful. Oh, gotta get them before those cackling birds. Do you enjoy my Tudor Revival home and English gardens? I do. Oh, I came out this morning, I saw some bunnies were being bastards and they bit off the climbing ends of some of these beans. Let's hope the heat and humidity will just encourage some new growth. Oddly enough though, that side's just fine. Peas gained a foot this week. They're selling snap peas at the farmer's market. I should have had these in a month earlier. Gosh darn it. Oh, I gotta talk about the strawberries in a sec. In 1 week's time, the tomatoes doubled in size. We left for a family trip all of last week. We were gone like the 10th through the 15th. And I tied these tomatoes up before I left at the top of their stems. So you can see that quite truly, they have doubled in size. Tomatoes and the tomatillos. Tomatillos are on the outside. Tomatoes are on the inside. It's going to be a good year for tomatoes. I like to make salsa verde, make and can salsa verde. And that's really my main goal with these guys. Lettuce, the greens are all good for the picking. Like I said, it's starting. And the blackberries are flowering on all of the blackberry. I don't know if I've talked about this in recent times. This blackberry is on both sides of the fence. I'll put the camera over the fence to show you. It's because this fence, before I rebuilt it, was crooked. And it curved toward the house, like really significantly. So, there it is now. And there it is there. It's because the original origin of this plant is like right down there. So this is the only example of an edible plant growing outside of the vegetable garden. Isn't that kind of funny? The acorn squash and the zucchini, or excuse me, the spaghetti squash and the various zucchinis are doing great. In fact, I think I'm going to transplant one of these out of this spot if I can today. Gotta find the right spot. Maybe I'll stick it over there. Ditto with this zucchini. Strawberries are done producing for the season now, and their runners are going hardcore. I finally decided what I'm going to do with them. So let's stand here and look. This season, I've had some slug problems. You can see here, this is the second attempt at growing bush beans in this raised bed. And look how pathetic that is. They'll come up in a nice row and then I'll come out one morning and then just gone. So I'm gonna give up on that bed. I'll transplant that cucumber that's there. And I'll transplant the ground cherries. They don't really start going until later this month in July. Time is ticking. So I'm going to effectively swap. I'm going to cut down the ends of this raised bed, or I should say I'm just going to unscrew them and redo them so the sides go all the way through. I'll knock down these two walls, fill the dirt in, amend it of course, and then I'm going to start pulling out the strawberries and putting them in this place. The ground cherries, right, I got to save them somehow. They might get temporary transplants over here. We'll see if they survive, but this is the time I got to do it. And then all the strawberries that are growing out, I'm going to plant them in a big area here. So that square footage is going to be about 84 square feet. Whereas right now they're growing in like less than that, right? They're not so much growing in the box here. They're like growing in between. So I think with some fresh soil that's properly amended, and then making sure I put straw on it in the fall, I'll be able to recreate these here growing conditions. And I think the strawberries liked the protection between the boxes here, so maybe they'll like the protection of the shade up here. I don't know, that's my hope at least. And I think that there were too many different roots of other things in the beds that might have prevented the strawberries here from being successful producers. Either way, that's a pretty decent project ahead of me. I picked up an Adirondack chair on the side of the road. It's pretty cool. So there's the garden right now. It's lovely. And I'll just walk you along for the rest of the trip. Oh, I have my first raspberry today. JK. This is gonna be great. We've had so much moisture and they'll all be ripening soon. Like you can see, and I picked off one like this morning, and it's heavenly. My wife's favorite. My interesting meadow experiment. Now starting to, the grass is starting to brown at the tips. You just look at the trees and you can see so much fruit. I'm thrilled. I think this year I'm most excited about this pear tree. I know I am. I've been excited about this peach tree before because it was my first and only producer for so long. So I'm excited about something else for once. Isn't the sedum acre lovely when it starts to flower? I think that's so interesting. Lots of other purples. This has bloomed. The autumn clematis, autumn joy, is all the way to the top. In bloom, in bloom. The I think the Shastas, no, they're daisies. They're going to be blooming soon. Did it with my lamb's ear. It's right on the cusp, you see, right on the cusp. I forget the name of this, which I feel so silly, but obviously this all bloomed. Look at the bees. Bzzz, loving it. Just loving it. The meadow is about the same. That's not true. Let's go check it out. I don't know about these long form videos. I like them and I don't like them. Thanks for watching. Walking around kind of freeform. So you can see a lot of the grass seems to have asserted its dominance, right? And this grass just germinated when I turned the soil, so I consider it a weed. It almost feels like all those beautiful flowers from last week and the weeks before have been overrun by the grass. So I think I have to do some weeding. Some animals have been trampling it, which is fine, right? Animals got to live somewhere. That's why this is an experiment. Isn't this tree lovely? This here? The city planted that in my terrace a couple years ago. 2016, I think. Ah, yes. Dog poop. My neighbor and I have different yard philosophies. She likes to add chemicals and kill, and I don't. She's a wonderful woman, just from a different era. But the person that's mowing her lawn has some interesting ideas on property boundaries. Mine ends here, as indicated by the concrete that I paid for, and it goes straight back to a very clear fence delineation. But like, look at this. It's like my property line is here, and they're way the heck over. Her landscaping goes to the edge of my property, which it probably shouldn't, but I mean, I don't care. We're friends. And we're still friends despite my complaints. It's just, this looks particularly ridiculous this year with my meadow. Like, look, see where that fence changes? To the left is hers, to the right is mine. Again, we get to this point in the yard, and her mowing guy is like 3-4 feet into my yard property. This is all mine. This is all mine. Yeah, this is just kind of like my extras. There's a lot of wild stuff growing back here. And this, it's not just me saying this. You can see down there, there's the old property line pole marker. And this change of fence is because of some dispute that, you know, she had with this neighbor back in the day, right? So she had to have her fence, they had to have their fence. That's not my fence. So you go there and you turn around. I mean, you can really clearly see how much they're on my side. And I just gripe about that a little bit today because she's having some yard people come over again. She's complaining that it's not level. So they're going to till up her yard or something. So I gotta make sure I'm here while those yard people come to have a conversation with them like I had of you, saying, sure, like you can go a foot over my property line if you need to, you know, make sure that her job is done perfectly. But 3-4 feet is a little ridiculous. Right? Don't you think this looks more cozy, right? In the shade, with the natural gardens and all the trees, as opposed to nothing. Yes. Whatever. Let's keep a looking. Oh, the window boxes look spectacular. Look at how red they are. I love red geraniums. Always remind me of my grandma. The loosestrife is beautiful. Otherwise, we've talked at length about how this will need to be a shade garden one day soon. Look at my pots. Pots look great. And the color was a surprise. It was different than what was indicated on the tags. Fortunately, they're all the same and they look lovely, but it's a surprise for us this year. I believe this was transplanted by a bird. And over in Phyllis's garden to end. Oh, so full, so lush. Gosh, look at those window boxes. Right, just heavenly with that morning light. What's blooming? Oh, the geraniums are blooming. These beautiful white daisies. These will be going soon. Right? Literally any day this week. This is the tallest this clematis has climbed. That's at my height now, 6.5 feet. I wish the others would do the same. It's just taken a long time to establish. Lavenders bloom nicely. The sedum here is bloomed nicely. We'll get some milkweed soon. Oh, and the yarrow has the seed heads. Flower heads, I should say. Did any new hostas fill in? No. But the space is nice and full. Goodness knows I appreciate it. Ah, and we're going to start having flowers there this week too. There we have it. As always, I thank you so much for coming into my garden, my gardens, and hearing about my landscape philosophy and my gardening goals, all that good stuff. It really is a wonderful time of year, especially if you can get up at the crack of dawn like me. Oh, there goes a rabbit. And do your gardening before it gets so darn hot that you can't even breathe. Ah, summertime. What's growing in your garden? What projects are you working on? Let me know in the comments below. One more time, there's my beautiful green space and her dead yellow space. I've been Christopher and I'm a curmudgeonly gardener. I love you guys. Take care.